Hi, Peter Charles here for Fly Fishing. And today I'd like to talk about a situation I ran into this morning. I was out fishing for a few hours and the fish I caught in this particular clip wasn't anything special. It was just your kind of average wild brown trout, small, probably about 10, 11 inches long. That would be about it. But what was noteworthy was the circumstance. Now, I was out for a few hours, and maybe over that span of time, I might have seen only a dozen rises, or, about that, 10, 12, something in that ballpark. There were only a few bugs coming off, and the fish were rising very, very sporadically. I mean, one fish might rise once in an hour. There is no point re-rigging to try to cast a dry fly to those fish. Totally pointless. I was out there with a contact nymphing rig, and I was not going to re-rig if I saw rising fish. So what I did do, when I saw that fish start to rise, I went out there and caught it with a nymph instead of a dry. And I presented it as if I was casting a dry, except I was casting a nymph. And don't forget, when duns are coming off, the nymphs are rising to the surface, and then they're splitting their skins open and emerging as adults. Those fish are going to be feeding in all of those stages, the rise, the emergence, and when the dun is sitting on the water. So we have the opportunity to take them with the nymph, and it's often the best way to catch a rising trout is with a nymph that's relatively close to the surface and moving, which is interesting because we normally talk about dead drifting our nymphs. But when there's an emergence going on, those nymphs are moving. So we want our nymphs to have some movement, to start to rise, to start to lift. It's called an induced take. And so this is what I did here. And so I'm going to look at the footage and you're going to see how that worked. Now, it was raining, so the footage is not perfectly clear. You'll see some spots on the lens. But nevertheless, you get a chance to see what it looks like. And we'll break it down so you get a chance to see how I approach this. So let's take a look.
Woo! That was a nice rise over there. I'm going to have to figure out how I'm going to put the fly into him. Oh, that was a fish. Little guy. Let's move a little bit. There we go. That's the drift. Got him. Look at that. Nice little brown. There we go. Off you go. Perfect.
Okay, I saw the rising fish off in the right corner, but you notice I don't go casting to it right away. I'm simply not in a very good position to put a fly to that fish, so I don't even try. It would be a mistake to try to cast that fish at this moment. So I take my time and fish out the run where I'm currently working. Now I'm going to move upstream so I can get a better angle on that fish and get a good drift into it rather than try to cast from a bad position. Okay, now I'm going to put a couple of casts in. They're going to fall a bit short. I'm basically ranging the distance. It would be a mistake to strip off some line and throw my fly right into that pile of brush on the far bank. I work my way up to it, so I'm not going to spook the fish, but I'm going to get a precise cast there. Now watch how I extend the drift by stretching out my arms to go as far as I possibly can before the nymph starts to move and the fish takes it. Okay, you saw how that fish was taken. And the key point here is there was a rising fish, it rose once. When there's a very sporadic emergence, those fish are going to, as I say, might emerge once or twice or 3 times an hour. There's no point going after them with a dry because, your chances of having that fish come back up for a dry at that moment are not high. The fish are not keyed in to bugs on the surface. They'll take the odd one here and there, and that's about it. So when there is this very sporadic hatch going on, go after them with emergers, go after them with the nymphs, and you can fish your nymph like an emerger. You don't have to tie an emerger on to do it. Just make it act like an emerger, and you can catch a fish. So don't go tying on the dry as soon as you see your eyes. There are other choices. Cheers.